Hey, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Super excited to have you all here. So this is an open Q&A session, so if you have questions, just throw them in the chat. Happy to answer any kind of questions that you have about music in general, about what's going on with VR play, about different practice tips, whatever would be helpful for you. So just throw it in the chat, or if you just want to sit back, relax, enjoy, we'll be playing some music. I'll be joined by our newest team member, Jonathan, who will share a bit about his story. He joined We Art Play about a year ago and has come such a long way in less than a year from starting from a beginner, just basic piano playing, all the way up now to full-time performing jazz pianist. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so throw your questions in the chat. I'm curious to hear what you guys are working on these days, or things that are coming up in your own playing. Let's see. Favorite chord progression and your next gig? Who's that? Chris Torsion. That's a cool name. Favorite chord progressions. So these days, I guess I've been thinking a lot less about specific chord progressions and more about more modal playing, navigating keys in a way that gets away from just basic chord shapes and moves more into just combining notes from a key without really thinking as much about the shapes and letting that stuff kind of naturally come out. But I've been messing with this one a lot recently. That's just a really simple one. Really, the way that I like to think about chord progressions and the way that I create them is starting with two chords, right? Keeping things really simple and just starting with two chords and then coming up with ways to connect them, right? So, yeah, in that example there, we were moving from F minor to D flat major and just using some, oh, it's Jonathan! There we go. Yeah.
Got him, dude.
So yeah, what was I saying? That was just F minor to D flat major and just connecting them with some dominant chords. It's really like that's my favorite way to create chord progressions and come up with this kind of stuff, is keep things really simple and then come up with ways to connect just two pieces, right? Rather than having these long progressions that are intimidating. So one idea for you. Anyway, what's up, Jonathan? How you doing? Good morning. Yeah, sorry about that.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. here.
No, it's 10. It's 10.
Wait, what time is it? Where are you at?
Yeah. Yeah, so
must be nice.
yeah. Let's do a couple more questions. Anybody else have some questions? And then Jonathan's going to tell us a bit about his whole life story. Just kidding. Let's see. Do I do private lessons? Hell yeah, I do private lessons. Just go to my website. Got some openings now. Creator course is actually starting, in like 1 week. So that's like the ultimate private lessons plus group classes and all this good stuff. So head over to We Art Play, or just click on the link in the bio and check that out. We have only one spot left. So yeah, I know, right? Just got one filled this morning.
For real?
Shout out to Caitlin. I don't know if she's here, but She's in.
Dang. Somebody better snag that spot, dude, or I'm gonna get
Jonathan,
2
you
spots.
take up 2 spots already.
Double spots.
Big personality. Is it true that major scales are the first thing to know? That's a good question. Maybe, Jonathan, you could give your input on that.
I think so. I think when I use food references a lot because I love eating. I don't love cooking, but I love eating, and I use food references a lot. And I think that major scales are such a good like base, you know, to create off of, because I mean everything can be. I'm always interested in like what the source of a thing is. So like when it comes to scales or music or theory or anything, if you can reduce it back to a home base, which is, you know, usually a major scale, the most comfortable sounding one, or I guess the most stable sounding one, then you always have like a reference point for where you're going. Like just like what you were talking about, like modal stuff. Like if you can understand where a major scale is, I have a lot of people ask me that. They're like, well, how does all this stuff work? And I'm like, well, if you know the major scale, then everything is just some sort of small derivative from that. Like a C major scale to like a C Lydian scale is just one note different if you understand the major scale. You get your C major, C Lydian is one note different. Mixed Lydian, one note different. So you can, yeah, if you understand your major scales, and it helps you to understand most chords. If you know all the major scales in 12 keys, you know all the chords. If you can put those things together. So if you can start to like learn like if you can learn one chord progression in 12 keys, you're good.
That's kind of a daunting task for a lot of people, or for anybody. 12 keys, I mean, that's a lot of keys.
Yeah. It's a lot of keys. But there's a lot of overlap. There's only 12 keys. So I mean, like when you start talking about like one chord progression, you're gonna see those chords again. You know, like if you, I mean, I'm trying to think, but like the overlap is pretty significant. Like if you played a 2-5-1 in every key, there's quite a few chords that overlap. So it's not like you're learning 12 times 3 if there's 3 chords in that chord progression. You're not learning 36 new chords, you know. So it's daunting for sure, but I think the benefit of that is like if you focus on just that, you'd be a beast. And if you can apply it to a major scale, then it's even easier, because then every time you learn a new major scale, you're just like,
I mean, someone mentioned before, I just saw in the chat, pentatonic scale. Pentatonic scale, you take the major scale, take away 2 notes, you got the pentatonic. Exactly right. That's a super, super useful scale. Though not so much for chords. There's like 2 triads in there. So if you want to really build out chords, that's where the major scales / minor scales, which is really, I tend to refer to them as keys, right? Key of 2 flats, key of 2 sharps, key of whatever, because it's really like the key of no sharps and flats is C major, but it's also A minor. It's also G Mixolydian and F Lydian and all these. It just depends the context of it. So, right.
Yeah, thinking about that has actually like helped me so much, saying it that way, like, oh, the key of 2 sharps, because then I don't have to think modally. Just have to think about like my obstacle points, like, you know, like my black key obstacle points. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my obstacle now, like that one key. So then I'm always thinking about like all the chord shapes within that, instead of like the chord scale of G major versus G major, like Ionian, versus the chord scale of F Mixolydian. I just like, oh yeah, 2 sharps.
7 modes times 12 keys. Wait. 84. Did I do that? That's 84 too many modes. So
Pass.
Say again, Jonathan?
I didn't start playing piano.
Yes,
I didn't start
playing
piano so that I could do math.
High school. That was a good time for math. So anyway, since then. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, Jonathan's really cool. He just joined the We Art Play team very recently, and you've probably been seeing some of his videos. He hasn't done that in any of the videos yet. So this is like a premiere mind framing.
Dude, not
So
yet. It's
anyway,
coming though.
super excited to
Coming up.
have you on the team. It's been kind of a one-man show for a while, so it's gotta take a break
Yeah,
sometime. It's
Jeremy
been
was
3 years.
vacationing, so whatever.
But anyway,
Yeah, that's a good
so
point. That's
Jonathan,
fair.
maybe you could tell us a little bit
My bad.
about your music background, where you live, you know, what led you to We Art Play, these kind of things. Tell us where you're coming from.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. So the short of it is, I grew up
Hey, thanks
as
for
a.
joining,
Oh
Tony.
yeah, Tony. That's my uncle. Love that man. Uh, yeah. So I started as a like a vocalist, and yeah, I did like vocals. Pretty much had like this dream of being like an R&B singer for like the longest time, and I was doing a pretty good job of it. It was like recording a lot of stuff, and yeah, and so it was one of those things where I put in a lot of work to it, but I never learned anything about music. The the typical like singer, like I was just like singing a lot, and and putting I don't know, I was putting in work though, and yeah. So what happened was I had invested so much time into like vocals and stuff, and then eventually I wanted to accompany myself in some way. And so I learned, like, I just taught myself some like basic piano stuff. I was playing like roots in the left hand and like basic chord shapes in the right hand,
Hell yeah.
and and making a living doing it. I was making a living doing it, so it was cool. Yeah, so it was like, yeah, it was enough because I was letting like my vocals kind of take the all of the melodic stuff and all of the like complicated stuff. But then what happened was this weird like shift happened, and I realized that I felt way more drawn to the piano in this like season, and then the pandemic hit, and I was really just sitting at home a lot. Obviously, just like everybody else, I was sitting at home a lot, and but I was like playing piano a lot more. Then I was playing a lot more piano because you know why not? And I didn't. And the thing was, is it was because I was writing a lot of music, and people kept like telling me like, "Oh man, this pandemic is gonna make you create such good music." And I was like, I don't have anything to say. Like I don't. There's no like words that I could articulate the situation with, and so I yeah, so I was like, I don't know what to do. So I started playing more piano because it was like it was wordless. It was like completely like emotive, it was like I could create like soundscapes that would articulate the time place for me, and that felt like more honest than the words that I was trying to like write. And so then I leaned into that. So then I started freaking out because I was like, oh my God, I've never had a piano lesson. I don't know anything. Oh my God. And so then I started like scouring my town, and I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. So it's small, like it's small. And I'm like messaging everybody like, hey, does anybody give piano lessons? Like, you know, like more advanced piano lessons. Cause I did know like most triads and a couple, like some seventh stuff. And so I'm like looking, and I had followed I had followed you. And uh, like before the pandemic, or during like at the early part of the pandemic, and so I had messaged a couple people, and they were like, "We don't really do lessons," and I was like, "All right, fine." And then I messaged you. I actually remember I was like, I came in with this like, because I was like, I don't know if he does private lessons, and I was like, "Please, sir, I'll do anything. I work so hard. I'll do anything. Please." And I did, and you were like, "Yeah, you can do private lesson." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so then I started taking lessons, and yeah, it was crazy. Things made a lot of sense to me, but I also was fortunate because we had the pandemic I had the pandemic space to like put in like 7 hours of practice time, which was nice. Like a day, I was just like sit at home and practice for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then as we like exited the shutdown and the pandemic and the world started opening up again, I like transitioned from like a R&B singer completely to like a full-time like jazz pianist. That's what I do full time now. It's crazy. It's super, yeah, it's super bizarre to think about because that was like a 3 year span of like knowing how to, because normally I would play stuff like maybe, you know, maybe well, I'm lying I would never play that chord, but like, you know, playing stuff like that a lot, you know, just like really like Rudy here, and then, you know, and now I'm like, oh yeah, like there's so many options. I'm going from the D flat to the G flat, and I can use 2-5-1s or some weird like out thing, whatever. Hey, watch out. But yeah, man, it's been,
Yeah, no, I've not seen the
yeah, it's
likes
been
of
a
this.
crazy ride.
Like, you know, okay, practicing 6-7 hours a day, you'd hope that would make a lot of progress, but still, the it was just like this rapid evolution. And I was just like, what is going
Yeah.
on? And I've got like 7,600 videos, and by like I think a month like 5 or 6, you're like, I think I finished all of them. Do you have any more? I'm like, come on.
I watched so many videos, bro. I would watch a video and I'd be like, oh, okay, so this one's in all 12 keys. And the first thing I did, right, was like, I was like, oh, I gotta learn all my scales. I just like went in and was like, I'm gonna learn all my scales. And that's what I did. Like, I just literally like spent because I was fortunate because I had the pandemic. And so I would literally just go like, all right, I'm gonna just spend time memorizing these 3 scales today. And I'm just gonna play them. And every time I sit at the piano until I like, you know, didn't have to think about it anymore. And so then when we were like meeting, it was like, okay, I would like look at the video and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do it in this key, this key, this key, this key, this key, and I'm gonna practice those scales. And so it was, yeah, it was like I had like a lot of time, so I was fortunate. But yeah, I put in a lot of work for sure.
Yeah, so I guess you said you haven't had piano lessons outside of this. You were self-taught before we met. So, but like, what are online lessons like for you? Do you find that like it takes away from anything?
Dude, no, dude, honestly, here's the thing. I think online lessons are better. This is a personal opinion, obviously, but I think online lessons are better. One, because I get the video from our lesson afterwards. So that's super great because you know what I was noticing was like, I'm over here, like I'm writing everything down. Like during our first like 2 lessons, I rewatched them and I'm like writing everything down. And then I realized, I was like, I don't have to do that. I was like panic writing because I was like, this is a lot of information. And so I wasn't even necessarily like learning in real time because I was just busy trying to like transcribe what you were saying, you know. And I'm like looking at your fingers, and then I realized that it was recorded, and I was like, oh, this is tight. So then I was just like, online, baby, let's go. And exactly, Tony, exactly, online all the way. Tony gets it. But yeah, so I think the online experience has been great for that. Also, I mean, the virtual keyboard. Dude, the virtual keyboard is honestly like it's a game changer. Being able to like see the light up screen as well as like fingerings has like it's helped me break a lot of stuff down. Like when I'm like, oh, do that thing again. Even the other day when I was like asking you about your song, like you already had your stuff set up, and so I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like looking at it, and I was like, oh, that literally makes so much more sense. Just being able to like see the shapes. So I was like, oh yeah. So I think the online lessons are great. I think that I you know, obviously there's a personal, there's something about being in person with somebody, but honestly, like online now is so different. It's very like very personal. I feel like it's very personal. We really become really good friends, and we've only ever known each other online. So yeah. So
that's good to hear.
So it's working, you know.
I mean, clearly,
I think it's great. You don't have to wear pants. Trust me. Look, trust me.
Cool it. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm usually wearing pants, but they're often like I haven't transitioned from pajamas yet, and nobody knows. It's great. Well, now everybody knows. So, oh well.
See, you don't have to. You
Mhm.
don't have to have a clean space. You just get to show
So,
up.
okay.
Like,
So
it's
for those of us who are just joining us, welcome. Oh, I'm just looking back at to see if we had any questions. Oh, is it possible to learn all chord progressions without using transpose? All chord progressions? I mean, good luck, but there's a lot. But there's not that many different
okay.
chords, and there's only 12 keys that those chords can fit into.
It's true.
Right. So, yeah, the answer is yeah.
Man,
Say again.
chord progression can be long.
Mm-hmm.
A chord
You tend to play pretty
progression can be
long
like really
progressions,
long.
as in, but it's more like when I hear it, it sounds like variations to me. You've got like your core chords, your core chords, and then you're like, let me throw this one in there. Let me do like a tritone sub. Let me get some passing chords. Let me, go in a completely different direction and just see what happens because I always know a place that I can get back to. And I think that's a good way of getting of understanding chord progression. Most chord progressions are that. There's a few core chords, and then everything else is connected material.
Yeah, this is like you were talking about that when I logged in. You were talking about that like F minor to D flat
chords,
thing.
and you doubled your chord progression.
Yeah,
from 2 to 4.
And just one chord can also be a chord progression, I think, or at least 2 chords. As long as there's a progression of the chord.
Yeah, one chord is more like hanging out in like a soundscape, which is really cool. And you can add passing chords into that and put secondary dominants and your diminished chords and whatever else you want. But yeah. So you gotta progress for a progression.
It's as long as the chords are progressing, that's a chord.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you can learn all the chords. Let's put it that way. Also, I have a course called Chord Mastery, which is really good for that. So, right.
You also have the 21 chord progressions one, which is great.
I tried to name them very quickly. 21 chord progressions has 21 different chord progressions in it. That are actually only in one key, but then your practice is to move them through the keys. And then Chord Mastery is more like each chord individually, different arpeggio patterns, different ways of practicing them in 7 different levels so that you can master every chord in every key. And then the progressions part, that's a whole nother story, but the 21 chord progressions is a good place to start with that. there's got to be an infinite chord progression. So the goal is not to learn every chord progression, but if you can learn all the fundamental chords, then every chord progression becomes approachable.
Yeah.
That's my final answer.
I think that's a fair answer. That is a fair answer. Because you could have a song that has like a 80 bar loop of right, like it could be just 80, just straight. Like some guys just like, I'm gonna write a song that has 80 measures of changing, evolving chords, and then it goes back. It sucks, but it could.
Anything's possible. Of course, Jonathan would have an 80 chord progression. Okay, wait, one more question.
I'm gonna write it today.
We're gonna do some other stuff. How many hours? Wait, number of hours / day to practice. Like, how much should you practice? I guess is the question. Really, for me, it's about consistency. It's not about the number of hours. Maybe there's honestly, there's not even that much of a minimum amount of time. If you have a focused practice, if you have 10 minutes and you play one exercise for 10 minutes, you're good. Unless it's an extremely difficult exercise. If it's something that's at your level, you're not going to have to play that again. You'll master that the next day, move on to the next thing. So it's about consistent practice. practice doing that every day, even 5-10 minutes, will make is better than zero. And then it's about having focused practice, which usually means focusing on one thing. It could be that one exercise. It could be one song. It could be one technique. It could be one key. It depends on how you want to set things up. But focusing on one thing and doing that consistently every day, even if you don't have 7 hours like Jonathan does to practice every day, you got 5 minutes, you got 10 minutes, you can just get on your piano and do something, and that is better than nothing. And if you can do that consistently, you're just going to get better. And that's what it is. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when I had asked you, I remember I was practicing too much at a certain point. I have to be fair, like I was practicing too much, and I remember I like asked you, I was like, hey, like, am I over practicing? Like, is this fair? And you were like, well, you're not playing as much. And I was like, dang, that's a good point. Like, so I think like for me, the best use of like a focused practice is like, oh, here's a song that I do want to play better, and then like taking some sort of concept from it and then like applying that to like a scale practice and then a chord practice. So like I would like play whatever, like play Autumn Leaves and be like, oh, okay, cool, well, I'm going to play it in the key of G. So then I would practice like some sort of scale exercise in G, or like G pentatonic, or like E minor blues, or something that I'm going to use in the song. And then like maybe I don't feel so good about the F sharp half diminished chord in the song. So then I would like do some sort of like chord inversion exercise, you know, with like that shape or something. And then I like, but then I would play it and I was like, man, this is like way better, because then I would spend like more time like playing it and then applying that like thing that I just practiced, and I'm like, oh yeah, that elevated my ability to like do things in songs so much more. This is so annoying. I asked that way later. It's like, dude, I'm playing these scales, not playing any music for weeks, like just doing rudiments, and then I was like, you're telling me that I can
No, but really,
just
like,
play
you're not alone in that.
practice?
I'd say, at first, when I first started teaching, I was like, people don't want to do exercises. Exercises are boring. People like want to just play music. But in my experience with my students, most of my students end up getting stuck playing exercises if they have an hour of practice, they play an hour of exercises. And they're like, oh, where'd the time go? I was trying to get these perfect. And they're not perfect. And it's an hour. Yeah, for me, I set timers. I don't know if anybody here sets timers, but I think that's a great way to do it. Put a timer on for 10 minutes, do an exercise. When it finishes, you write where you left off. You move on to the next exercise, 10 minutes. You write where you left off at the end of those 10 minutes. It's not about getting them perfect, because you can always get them better. I'm still working on fundamental exercises, but I'm focused less on which notes to play, and now I'm focused on the subtleties of like accenting every third note, or playing it as quietly as possible, or getting a really even crescendo or decrescendo in volume, you know, like these subtle things. So you can keep going back to the fundamentals and getting them more perfect, but there's no end goal of, okay, they're perfect, done. And you can always go back to fundamentals and these kind of more basic exercises of scales, chords, arpeggios. They will never leave you. They can keep coming back no matter what you do.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
It's the hardest. I think it's the hardest one.
Like often. The hardest one.
But really,
dude, it sucks. It's so hard.
Someone just asked, "What's your hardest key to play on?" It's C. The answer is already clear.
Dude, C.
And that's the thing. Most people start in the key of C, and then they're like, "Oh, this is so hard. I can't get it," and they don't move on to the other keys.
There's no visual markers. Like people are scared of the black keys, but the thing is the black keys help you like visualize a pattern. Like honestly, like I would say honestly, the key of A or the key of E, or like E flat, like one of those, like the 3 flats, 3 sharps key, it's got like a really like beautiful visual. It's like it's got a beautiful like like visual, so you can see the patterns of how the chords work. I love playing in like
Yeah, I would say
three
four
sharps,
flats, four and
three
five flats are
flats,
my
four
favorite
sharps, four
keys.
flats.
If I really had to pick, I
Really?
do like five flats. I do like five flats,
Really?
I gotta say.
Five? Like deep monster. Because you play that
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that is five flats.
that's five flats. Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice because you got all the black keys. Like, I was just like, kind of like slapping my fingers on the
Yeah.
black keys, and it's like, I'm in the key. Come on. Like,
Fair.
that makes it easy. And the black keys are like elevated, so you can kind of just like flap your fingers around and you can hit them. It's great. So
That's kind of
I love it.
dang. I'm playing deep. Like playing
Say
five
again?
flats more. Yeah, you're true. Right? No, that's true. I was like, I'm always like, nah, pass.
You
I'm
always
not gonna
gotta do
remember
that
which
either way,
light
but
keys to play.
I guess I've also listened to a lot of like, it seems like a lot of the blind piano players, like famous blind ones, like they stick with B major, D
Yeah.
flat major, the ones that have all the black keys in it.
Yeah,
That's very sharp.
that's true. Yeah, Ray Charles played so much, and so I guess yeah, so did Stevie. Stevie has a whole like
Yeah.
E flat. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's
That's
got to
true.
be something
Yeah,
of
like a
like
lot of
it's a little bit
like
easier for your fingers to find those notes without even looking, obviously. So
obviously,
anyways,
obviously.
okay, we got a little more time. So we got this group course coming up. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it's called the Creator Course. It's like this awesome course. Jonathan's already done it once. He's like, I'm coming back for a second one. It's just a great course. It's kind of like
Coming back,
a culmination of all of the stuff that We Are Play's been putting together. It's now inside of one course, and it's 12 weeks. It starts next week, and there's only one spot left. So, which is pretty cool. Like, I didn't know if it was going to fill up or not, but there's one spot left. So, would love to have any of you all join. There's a link in the bio. Just click on that, and you'll see Creator Course. Just click on that, and then you're all set. You can learn about it. You can apply for it. But we got one spot left, and I'm curious to hear your perspective, Jonathan, because I'm a little biased with it. But what do you think of the Creator Course? And specifically, I think what's great about the Creator Course is that it's a group, it's a cohort going through the course together. It's not videos. It does include videos, but it's not just videos you're doing by yourself. Yeah. It's not just private lessons. You have private lessons, video, and the group. But what do you think for you the benefits of being in a group or a cohort in a course as opposed to on your own?
Bro, honestly, like this, I don't want this to sound corny, but I live in I don't live in a huge town. I mean, there's like, I don't know, like 300,000 people here. But as far as like community goes, even when you're playing, you know what I've realized is like, even when you're playing with other like musicians, like who aren't on your instrument. So there's like a lot of like bands here where there's a lot of guitar players and stuff, and we like play together. But there's not like a lot of piano players. And then even more so, there's not a lot of piano players playing the kind of stuff that like I play. Most of them play like classically, and so there's not a lot of like community or conversation. So when I got into the course, I was so geeked because there was these goals that we had. And first of all, the first part is like when you started, we like established these kind of tenets, which were like motivated by like respect and motivate and like desire, like mutual desire and teamwork in like a non like hokey way. Like it was like, hey, like help each other. And so having like a community of people with these goals that we were all kind of rushing to was the best. It's something that I've never had as a musician. And so it was necessary. It's something that I'd like longed for, especially like after like really like leaning into piano more. I was like, man, I just wish that I could talk to people who are trying to get to the same level as me and have like a conversation conversation about the things that I'm doing, because I learned it's not like I'm way better than anybody or way worse than anybody, because you don't think, I wasn't thinking about it like that. Like things from I learned things from like Monk, like listening to like Monk play. He was a guy that was in the course before. Like I'm like listening to him and I'm like, oh, what was that? And then but then I get to ask him, it's like a lot of times you see a video or something on Instagram and you're like, dang, that was tight. And then you like message him and you're like, what were you doing? And maybe you'll get a response, but even if you do get a response, it's like a text, it's like a message. So you're like, I hope I can understand music theory words. But then, you know what I mean? Like in the community, you're like talking to these people, you're like, what'd you do? And he goes, oh, I just did this little thing right here, and then shows you. And nobody's like too proud to show it anybody else like what they're doing, nothing like that. And yeah, the creator course was great. Also, I think I created like 15 songs in the course of it that I play live. I created like I'm looking at my whiteboard. My whiteboard's right here, and I'm looking and I'm like, which ones of these were created during the creator course? And there's 14 songs that were created in the span of that. And a lot of that was because in the goal parts of the creator course and talking to people, there were these technique things that we focused on that I never felt comfortable doing, so I would have never written a song like that. And then being shown the technique, but then also seeing like 5 other people use that same technique is like extremely inspiring, because you see all these different like tastes and flavors and genres and approaches, and then you go, oh. And so I wrote a shit ton. I was like just like bubbling with excitement and like motivation to create, which was great for me. So, and a lot of people that were in the course did too. I mean, David was like working on a whole album. Brunson started like performing like right after that. He had like a huge like performance. Peter is having a recital soon. Like a lot of the people that were in the course also are like, yeah, I'm going to start working on an album. Like I'm going to start working on an album now, which is crazy. It's insane. So yeah, so for me, I mean, some of the most formative techniques happened in that like 12-week span. Things that I use often now, and songs that came out of it too. So
Me too.
I very much look forward
it's amazing to see
the next one.
The progress everybody made in that course. You mentioned some of the names. I mean, everybody created at least one. I think you're the only one who made 15 or 14 songs, but everybody created at least one original song. And some people who had never composed anything before, or never composed anything that they felt like was really their voice.
Yeah.
Was really them coming through. And I think that happened for everybody involved, which was really amazing to see and be a part of that community and supporting each other along the way, because there's always that voice of self-doubt that comes in for everybody. You look at these like top musicians and they're like, they can't doubt themselves. Like, come on, they just play and everything's easy. It's everybody doubts themselves. So you need the community to really boost yourself up and keep going when that self-doubt does hit. So that for me is what the community, one of the strongest parts of the community is about, is that just building your confidence and pushing past that voice of self-doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I've got like piano friends, which is also great. Like we're like Instagram now, so it's like, we got this like little like community of like people who like the things that I like. It's weird, man. It's so cool to have like a group of like piano-y guys that I can do, or that will like post on my like videos and stuff and be like, yo, that's my
Everyone's
boy.
super cool.
And I'm like,
everyone who joins the course is like
gonna
be cool, because they're like, I want to get better at piano. I want to do it with a community. That's gonna attract cool people. And
yeah, and I want to write my own music. Like I want to create the way that I want to create. Like that just breeds awesome people.
So
yeah,
we've got like
I like it.
3 minutes left, and then I gotta
tight.
go teach some lessons and stuff. There's too many things in this chat, but Anyways,
Ooh.
any final parting words of like some key insights that you had along your journey, or um, what's coming up for you next? Anything like that?
Key insights along my journey. Uh, Post
Mm.
whatever you want and share whatever you want um, with anybody. It does not matter. That's the thing that was nice about the creator course. Honest to God, the most motivating thing was watching people who had 0% faith in themselves like see the community moving forward, and so they were just like throwing grenades like I'm just gonna upload my video, I'm gonna upload my video, and then they would hate it. They would hate it as like I could see them and they upload it, but then never once was there like a negative response to it. And at the end of it all, watching all these people play songs that they had written for strangers was like the most beautiful thing. And I was like, dude, you can post whatever you want, you can create whatever you want, you can share it with anybody. It does not matter. Like, just wherever you're
Mm.
at, if you feel like creating, do it. And if you want to have more like faculties to create with, join the creator course, take some lessons, sharpen your skills, and keep creating them.
Amen.
So that's
Couldn't
what
have
I
said it better myself.
that's
That's
my
powerful.
parting advice.
Oh yeah, the
Thanks
teleprompter too
thanks
worked
for that
pretty well.
script earlier too. I appreciate that. Yeah,
No, come on,
yeah,
you
it's like right
created
here.
that. That was improvised. Yeah.
I
Yeah. So okay,
created that.
we gotta log. I gotta log
That's
off now.
improv.
So thanks everyone for joining us. We're so happy that you're here, that you've spent however much time you have with us, and we got one spot left in the creator course. I want to see you there. Come on, let's make some music. Let's do it. All right. Peace. See y'all later.
Do it.
And that's it.
Bye.
Bye.